Great, good morning and welcome back to Youth Coach Jam's online Bits and Bytes lessons. We're up to lesson 7 and we're going to be making a time-lapse video today using Scratch. A couple housekeeping things before we get too far into it is our lesson schedule is staying the same. We have new lessons that we'll upload on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we'll have our Q&A sessions at 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Especially for this one, this activity is going to be a little bit more challenging. It's got more components to it than others. So if you need some help with it or have questions, the Q&A sessions are a great time to get those answered. To sign up, you just need to go to this bit.ly link right here, bit.ly/YCJ virtual lesson Q&A, and then download Zoom so that that's ready to go at the time. And then, as usual, here are our resources that we'll be using today. So because we're doing a time-lapse video, you guys will need photos. So we've provided some for you that will help with the time-lapse effect. So we will download those in just a minute. And as usual, we have the Spanish activity sheet and then the English activity sheet. So let's go download our stuff. So I'm going to leave that up in the background because I do not have those memorized. I'm pulling up my browser. Can I move this? Let's move that over here. So I've pulled up my browser and I'm going to type in the URL to get to the time-lapse video, the time-lapse activity sheet. YCJ time-lapse. Excuse me. YCJ time-lapse, and I'm using the English version. We'll give that a second. So here's the activity sheet. I'm going to download it. So in Chrome, normally your downloads will show down here, and when the little progress bar is gone, they're downloaded. You can open it in Chrome. I like to open it offline because then I'm not switching between tabs so much, and that's easier for me. So I've opened it. I'm going to minimize it for now so it's out of the way. And then I'm going to go back here, and everyone will need these photos. You're welcome to use your own, but this will really give the time-lapse effect because the photos were taken so close together. And what a time-lapse is, in case you don't know, it's a series of photos that take place all together at once. So it will actually end up looking like a movie or a GIF or GIF, however you want to say it. So we're going to type in that link next. Right here, same bit.ly/YCJTL, that is an L, not an I, photos. So you should get this button that says download all. Click that one. It's going to take just a minute. So because we're downloading in Chrome and from Google, I got the little bar that says it's done. So unlike Safari, these things aren't just popping up for me. That's okay. We're going to go to our downloads folder and look for where that went. Maybe. So I'm in my Finder window on a Mac and I'm looking for my project today. So we have that one. All right, I'm gonna go back and try that again because I'm not sure where that one downloaded. This is good for you guys to see this problem solving stuff because you may have the same issue. Let's try that. What are my options here? Okay, so I do want to download all. I'm going to let it zip the folder again. Okay, so when it asks you, if you get that pop-up, press the leave, and that will allow it to download. So now because of how Chrome works, I'm just going to click this open button right here. And so what that's done is it's unzipped the file for me, and I'm back in the downloads section of my Finder on Mac. So these will go to your downloads folder. You just have to unzip them. So on a Mac, you'll just double click and it will create the photo. And then if you're on a Windows, you'll need to right click with your mouse or trackpad. And over here, there will be an option to unzip your file. I'm not exactly sure what the language is, but it should be there. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm just going to leave this open over here. We don't really need it, but I just want to have access to it. And now we're going to head over to Scratch. Like that. Okay, so we're done downloading stuff. We're good to go. We're going to press Create. Okay, so I'm signed into my account. You don't have to have one. I'm just automatically signed in, which isn't the best practice, but I'm on my home security network and I'm not really worried about my Scratch account. It's not connected to anything. It's pretty safe. So I leave it signed in because I use it so often. All right, so the first thing we got to do is if you have that tutorials window, go ahead and exit out of it. I don't because again, I'm already signed in. If you are signed in, you can give your project a title up here. So I can call it, I'm just going to call this Time-Lapse project. And then I'm going to delete the cat. So let's pull up that activity sheet and take a look because it's a little bit longer today. So you can, we haven't really done this before. The filled in circles here indicate the difficulty level of our activities. So we've been kind of staying down in the 1 to 3 mark, which is pretty simple. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging, but you're going to get a lot of good computer skills out of it that will be important for other things you do outside of playing with Scratch. Like all that downloading we just did is important for, you know, working in the real world or dealing with classes as you get older. I download stuff all the time and I have to deal with zip files and sending those back and forth. And a zip file just compresses everything so that the size is smaller and can be sent online. So you may be experiencing some stuff now where you're trying to turn in projects or turn in things online and you're getting errors saying the file's too large. A zip file, even if you just have one file inside of it, can help with that. So that's why you'll download things that way. So today's stuff, we're going to focus on using some variables, loops, and Boolean operators to create visual effect photography. So we'll get into what all that is as we come across it. But we're going to do, so the time-lapse is kind of close to stop motion animation. And we're going to make our own little animated project here. So we have the photos. We've done the first few steps, okay? So I've walked you through how to get the photos. You're welcome to have your own. We've downloaded the ducks. I just picked one because there were a bunch of files and it was just easier just to go with one. Again, if you have some of your own you want to use, you're welcome to. These will really do the stop motion effect that we're going for. So we've already downloaded our stuff, but if you are still struggling, step 2 could be helpful, especially because it's done on a Windows computer. So there's not, Windows and Mac look differently. Sometimes they operate a little differently, but things are essentially very similar. So like I said, if you're on a Windows, it went to your, open up your file icon, open up that file icon on the bottom of your screen, and then you'll look for your downloads folder and your images should be there. They will be in a zip folder most likely, unless you chose to download them one by one. Okay, so we're already at Scratch. We've cleared this one. Okay, so we're going to upload our sprites, and this is going to be kind of the tricky one. And we're going to, I'm actually going to read this as we go because sometimes I miss steps on this one, and it's important that we not do that. So we're going to, on step 5, we're going to click on the costumes tab at the top left of our work area, which I can't actually get to because I don't have them. So do we, okay, so we're going to upload one file first. Okay, So come over first before we do that, click on the choose a sprite, and we're going to do this little box, half box with the up arrow. It's the reverse of what we pressed to download. This is how we're going to upload. So you're going to click on the upload. And right now I'm in my school folder because this is the last area I was in when I uploaded something to the web, or at least with Chrome. So it remembered where I was. Yours may set to a different default. That's okay. We're all going to go to our downloads folder and look for that file where the time-lapse photos are. And this is very important to upload things in order. So we're going to click on this one here at the very top and open it. Okay, so we're going to end up doing a couple things because even though that photo was downloaded correctly, Scratch has turned it. And this is where, go ahead and click on the Costumes tab now, and we've got some work to do here before we can start building our code. We have some setup stuff we have to be doing. Okay, so we uploaded our sprite. You can switch between convert bitmap and convert vector to export the different editing options for your project. Okay. So, and then if you have access to like Photoshop or something like Photoshop, you can do more editing to your photos. You just have to open them up in that program. We don't really need to do that today. So what I do need to do on this photo is flip it. And if you've noticed, I don't really have access to do that. I need to rotate it. So what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna convert to vector. And then what do we have? Okay, let's minimize this and look at our photos real quick. So sometimes things happen during the download process where they get misoriented. So I'm gonna pull up that Finder window and I'm gonna change my view so that we can see something. I'm gonna hit 1. So it shows up right there. Can I just, there we go. So you have to click on the picture and then you should get this blue outline with some anchor points around it and these 2 arrows. We're gonna use these arrows. Oops. We're gonna use these arrows and rotate our picture so that it's straight up vertical. And the easiest way to do that is as you rotate, hold down the shift key on your keyboard. You'll get a perfectly straight one. I'm gonna back out. Can I back out? No. Okay, so let's pull that down. And so that it's in our viewfinder completely. So our viewfinder right here is our screen, so that we have it completely in our screen. I'm going to pull the top right edge down. And what that does is it shrinks it proportionally. You don't have to do this. You can leave it as big as you want. I'm going to estimate it about there. And so we're going to do this for every single one of our photos. So now we're going to go back to the cat. We can stay in this area. Actually, we're going to stay here. And we're going to come, so if you see over here on the left side where we have the costumes, we're going to add all of our photos as a second costume. So hover over the cat sprite that says choose a costume and then click on the upload costume button. And I'm just going to click on the second one here. So it ends in 12/27/02. And I'm going to highlight all the way down to here. And it looks like I have a couple duplicates in there. That's okay, we'll take care of that in just a second. So I'm going to open that. Okay, so that uploaded all of our stuff. So I knew that one was a duplicate. So we're going to delete the very last one. And then we're going to come back up here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 3 was a copy. Okay, so why did we do this? Because this will allow us to use the switch between costumes options, which we've done in other projects, to do the stop motion effect. And do a lot easier than if they were all separate sprites, which would get very messy over here and be very hard to make look nice. So we're going to do it this way. And this process is going to be a little tedious, and I'm sorry for that, but we're going to convert to vector. And vector and bitmap are just different ways the photo can be read. I am not the best about knowing the tech stuff behind it. There's different situations where they're good. Right now we need to convert to vector so that we have more editing capabilities on it. So that's why I converted here, and we're going to switch it like that. And then I'm going to hold down the shift key and rotate it. I'm rotating it to my left, pulling it down, and then I'm just going to do a big shrink here. Maybe make that a little bit bigger. Yeah. So that's what screen 1 looks like. So let's try and match up the centers. So you'll see how there's the center of this little blue part of my picture is the center, and then there's this black part in the screen. Let's try and match those up so that they're kind of in the same spot. And we're going to just repeat this process for every single one. So convert to vector, click on the photo, rotate to the left so it's straight up and down, shrink it so it fits into the space, and center it to the best of our ability. And just keep repeating. Convert to vector, highlight, shift and rotate with your mouse. So why are we making you do this? Well, because we can't do it for you. I'm sorry. I feel like that photo is very thin. Okay. Is that better? Yeah. Well, we can't do it for you, and these are good. So what you're practicing now are good motor skills for working with computers. A lot of you spend most of your time using tablets and iPhones and other smartphones, which are fine. But this gives you some practice with using the trackpad or your mouse and working with other keys while you're doing this, and just kind of getting those motions down. It's okay if it's a little challenging right now. Most of our students don't work with laptops or desktops regularly, so it's okay if this is your first time or you're just not used to it. So I'm obviously pretty used to working with this kind of stuff. I can't get to that photo. So I'm going a little faster, but sorry, I'm having a little bit of a there we go. So just like that, you saw me, I couldn't get it to scroll down. Sometimes that happens. You just have to kind of play around with your trackpad for a second. Sometimes things just don't cinch you for whatever reason. So we're rotating, we're shrinking down, we're aligning to the center here. So obviously I can't make them all the exact same size when I shrink them. Well, you could if you want to be very particular. I'm not too worried about it. It'll be fine. Convert. So we're at 7 now. We have 10, we're almost done. Convert to bitmap. Oops, I converted the wrong way. So convert back, click, hold down shift and rotate with the keys with your mouse or trackpad. If you're working on this from a tablet or a phone, I'm not really sure how you manage this. I guess you're going to have to be much more patient. It's not that we can't use Scratch with those devices, it's just really challenging. So if that's what you have access to, that's fine. All of our activities can be done on the tablet or the phone with this. At least all the Scratch activities. It's just going to be a little bit more challenging. It might also run a little slower. Scratch is a very heavy weight application, web application, which means that it takes up a lot of your memory and bandwidth to run. And I'm also using Chrome, which is a very heavyweight browser. So it will, I'm plugged in right now. You can see at the top of my screen that it says it's charging. I'm technically charged. This means at this point I'm running off of electricity. I'm not running off my battery. And that's because when I work with Scratch in Chrome on just my battery, it just kills my computer really fast and I have to go charge it in. So it's just easier to do this plugged in and not worry about the battery life. Okay, so we're on the last one. Convert to vector, highlight, rotate. I'm not sure about Firefox. I have to use Chrome for work and school a lot. A lot of things are made to just be compatible with Chrome now, which isn't great, but that's what I have to do. But Firefox might not be quite as burdensome on your battery. Okay, so now we have all of our ducks converted and rotated, and they should all be in the right directions. Let's double check our directions to see where we're at. This is very important. So I have done this activity before, so I'm familiar enough with it, but that doesn't mean I can't miss things. So it's very important to double check our activity sheet. So we're on, okay, so we repeated that. And now we get to add our code. So we're on page 3, step 7. And we're going to switch back to the code blocks. We've been on costumes this whole time. We're going to switch back to the code block and get our favorite block, which is the when green flag clicked block. And that's in our events drawer, the yellow drawer here. And you're going to grab the when green flag clicked block and drag it into our workspace. So that is kind of our, so an event is something that happens that your program can respond to. So like in my Java classes, I'm pressing a button to transfer to a new screen or to submit data in my application that I'm building. So here our action is going to be that we are going to press the green button and that will run our program for us. Okay, so I'm going to move this down just a little because it's bothering me. All right, now back at step 8. So we want our actions to repeat, so we're going to choose a loop from the control drawer. We're going to use the repeat until block and place a block from the operators drawer with an equal sign Boolean block inside. And then we will have to we'll give it parameters or settings, you can think of it like that, to tell it when to stop, okay? So let's go pull those blocks and I'll explain a little bit more. So in our control drawer, we have a lot of, we've seen it before. We have our repeat blocks here, repeat forever, and then we have some if and if-then statements, and then repeat. So what these do is they allow our program to kind of split, because what a compiler does is that it reads from, so if this is step 1, goes to step 2, step 3. So what the repeat statements is, it keeps us in this step. So I grabbed our repeat until blocks, we will need this. It will keep us here in the program until we hit a set condition, which is what we use the Boolean operators for. Boolean is just, if this condition is true, do X. If not, do something else. So we're testing to see if the condition is still true. Usually a couple will use false depending on what your logic is. Okay, so we have our repeat until. We're going to keep that there. That will keep us in this part. And we're going to go get the equals operator. So that's down here in the green operators drawer. And so you'll see you can do math with operators. You can have it pick a random number. These are called, this is a comparison operator that we'll be using. So you can have greater than, less than, and equals to. And then there are some others, but we're going to grab the equals to, and we're going to bring it over here. And it's been a while, so we'll go over this again. You see how that diamond shape kind of highlighted in white when I hovered near it? That means that my operator is going, when I release it, is going to fit in there. So if that's not highlighted, so if you're like, I don't know, over here, you're gonna have a hard time getting that in. So you need to get it to highlight, usually by just hovering over it, and it will pop right in there. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to use a variable. And this says a variable is a placeholder for information that can change. In this case, it will be the number of loops that we're going to go through. Okay. So if you've done it in math, you might be working with X, or maybe you've seen an older sibling solving for X. In math, X is a variable that you're searching for. So we're trying to figure out what it is in that context. In coding, we're telling the variable, usually we're telling it what that is. So we're going to come to the variables drawer down here, second from the bottom. And we're going to click on make a variable. Okay. And name it something appropriate for your project. So a common thing that you'll see in more professional coding is that you'll see something called count. And what count is it counts the number of times something happens. And then when we reach that number of times, or we decrease to that number of times or whatever, we stop. So I'm going to call it count because we're going to count how many loops we go through. And when we hit our set loop, we're going to stop. So you can leave it as the for all sprites because we only have one sprite technically. So that one's fine. So once you've named your variable, press OK. And you'll see that it shows up here. That's so we can keep track of how many we've done. Okay. So on step 10, you're going to drag the name of your variable, that's just a plain oval, into that first block, and then choose a number to type into the second one to be our second parameter. So what we're going to do back in our browser is grab, see counts as check marks. That means it's active for this project. We're going to click it and drag it into that first oval. I'm going to decrease this to 20. I'm going to stick with the activity sheet. So what this means is that we're going to repeat until count equals 20. So every time we go through whatever is we put inside this block here, when we've reached the end of the block, it will go up by 1. And when we hit 20, it will stop. It will not stop before unless you come up here and click the red button, and it will not continue after. So the key, of course, you'll see in a minute probably, is we're going to need to set count to 0 so that every time we start the project, we're starting from the bottom. Okay, so on to step 11, page 4. Yes, page 4. So right, like I just said, we're going to get this set block and set it to 0. So every time that we start the program, we're starting at 0. If we don't do this and we try and restart it after hitting 20, it's not going to restart because it said you've already hit the limit. We can't go any further than this. So go back in your browser and we're going to get this block right here that says count, set count to 0, and just place it between the when green flag clicked block and the repeat until block. Okay. Yep. All right. So now on to step 12. We just have a few more blocks to add here on step 12. So we've done this one before. I told you earlier too. We're going to switch between costumes. So go back to the looks drawer. It's the purple one, second from the top. And we're going to look for this next costume block. So if I run that right now, it's going to do something like, well, actually right now, I don't think it's going to stop. No. So if I'm not going to run it right now, well, yes, I will. So we have nothing, even though we've set count to 20 and we have it starting at 0, we have nothing to really increment it or increase it as we loop through. So when I start this, it's never going to stop because count is not going to change from 0. But I want you to see how fast that change is happening. And obviously it's a little different because not all my stuff is quite sized right, but that's okay. But it's not ending. And also it's happening really, really fast and almost kind of jerky. So we're gonna hit stop. We're gonna add just a second of wait time between them. So back in control, we're gonna grab this first block called wait 1 second. And we're actually going to click inside that block and add a, you're gonna click the period button and then a 1. So we're just putting it in there for like 1/10 of a second. So now if I run that, it's a little smoother. So mine's still a little jerky because my photos are a little different sizes and not quite lined up, but it's better than it was. And you can see already that the time lapse is working, but we have to get it to stop. So let's hit the stop button and go back to our instructions. So we're on step 13, sorry. On 13, it looks like a lot. It's not going to be. We're going to go back to the control drawer and get this if statement. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, that so if the condition is true, then we're going to change our variable by 1. And if it's not, then in this case, we're not going to do anything. If we wanted to, we could add a second, like an else, which is over in the block. So I'll show you that in a second. But this will add us to, so here we're staying in this block of code and not continuing down until it's done. This adds another branch to our code so that we can do a second action, because the code is read sequentially, which is in 1, 2, it goes 1, 2, 3 by the lines of code it reads, and then it executes it in that order. So the control blocks allow us to kind of break out from that step-by-step. It still goes in a step-by-step order, but we can add kind of branch offs, like, I don't know, step 2B, step 2C to it, so that it's more versatile than just going in line. And it also helps reduce how much code you write. So, okay, we're going to go back to our block. We're going to grab the if-then block. The other option you could do is if you wanted to have, so this option turned out to be, if our condition here turned out to be false, you could give it something else to do. We don't want to do that this time. We just want to have it do something if it's true. And that's going to be contains end. Okay, so this is the tricky part because we did not rename our photos, but we're gonna write this block and then I'm gonna show you how to do that. Yeah, so let's get the code on here and then we'll go change the name. So we're gonna go to our operators block because I can see that's green, but it also says it up here. We're gonna go to our operators drawer and we're gonna grab the block that says blank contains question mark. So it defaults to Apple contains A, but we're going to use costume name. So that's in the looks drawer. Okay, so costume, have to scroll down a little bit. Okay, so down here you'll see these ovals, ellipses, stadiums, they're called lots of things. And you'll see one that says costume number. We're gonna grab that one and replace Apple with it. You see how it's now highlighted white? We're gonna drop it in there. Use the drop down option over here and change it to costume name. And we want to say that when the costume name, so the name, which is the file name attached to each costume, contains end, then we're going to change our count by 1, which means we're going to increase it by 1. If you wanted to decrease, sorry, go back to variables, I got my oranges mixed up, change count by 1. If you were starting, let's say we started our count at 20. So if we automatically set count to 20 and we wanted to decrease to 0, you would start with set count to 20 and change count by -1. And then it would stop when it reached 0 or when it reached the end. Okay. So we would also have to change this to 0 here. I'm going to undo all that because I want it to start at 0. Our count's going to be 20 and we're going to increase by 1. And then, so our code is right, but we know that we didn't change the image name. So click back to the costumes tab and scroll down to the very bottom of our last one. So it's still highlighted for me, but if it's not, highlight your last image. And then you're gonna come over to the sprite panel here. And the very first one, you'll see sprite, copy of blah, 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 blah. Click in there and get rid of all that text and just type end. And when we go back to our code, we're gonna see if that did it. So all our code works. Well, we're gonna see if it works. All of our code matches. We changed it to end. We're going to start. So it's running. Mine is not changing. I know what happened. Okay. So we're gonna stop that. I'm gonna just change this name right here to ducks. I went to the wrong spot. So go back to costumes and we're gonna have to click on right here. Sorry, I went to the wrong one. So at the top of the costumes panel where we can edit, you're gonna change that to name end here. All right, now go back to code and let's see how we do it. So if you notice, my count is going up, which means that when it goes up, we're hitting the end image. We're gonna see if it stops at 20 like it should. and ta-da. So it ended. And if you, I was watching the count to make sure it ended, but if I'm going to play it again, you can see that we made this time lapse. So it's in kind of a smooth time lapse of the ducks swimming across the pond. Not perfect because my images are all different sizes, but the idea is there. So this is kind of what really old videos used to look like, is because the film was taken so close together, they would be kind of stop motiony and jerky. And you've probably seen some of the claymation stuff at holidays that has been online, use stop motion animation, where they would just move the characters would be actually built out physical things that are a lot bigger than you think they are. And then they would just move them like millimeters at a time and take a photo, and then move them millimeters at a time and take a photo. And they have different like faces and heads they interpose to make different expressions. It's a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And I grew up watching those holiday movies and I really like them. That's the end of our lesson. We have the adventure mode. So you can try to add a background and change the color or style effects of your background, and you can add some sounds to go with this. You could also play with the logic. So you could go back and kind of explore with operators would be a good one, with the less than or the greater than and all that stuff. That would be a good one to play with. If you guys are wanting some activities that are not computer-based, we have revamped our site. So I'm going to go to youthcodejam.org. And I'm going to go to the Jam at Home section, and let's click on the Virtual Learning Hub real quick. So we have, in addition to our Bits and Bytes Coding Club, which is what this is, we have some Brain Break family activities. And this is some new stuff we're releasing. I think there will be new stuff released on a weekly basis. So what it is that there will be a week of, each week there will be a different kind of unplugged activity. So you just click on the week of March 30th, for example, and it's a PDF with different activities that you can do offline. Some of them are arts and crafts. Some of them are kind of like puzzles or things you have to kind of think out. There's also some baking stuff, and if you find that one, that's because baking is like an algorithm, which is what we just made, right? This is an algorithm. It's a series of steps taken to complete a task. So all of these are a series of steps needed to make the time-lapse project run. And it's really not a lot of code for what you got to accomplish, again, because we have things like loops and if-then statements. So that's some stuff. There's different categories of these brain breaks. So you have coding, but this is more like offline coding based, and then a maker. So I think those are more of the arts and crafts stuff. There's some things you can do with your family, and then a logic activity. So these are more of like the what I would probably associate with brain teasers or kind of riddle type stuff. So you really got to think them through. Yeah, looks like there's some math problems here, which are really good practice. As you all know, with standardized testing, you see a lot of word problems. So these are good practices to get so that the word problems aren't so intimidating when you see them in a standardized test or even on a regular test. So we have those activities that we're releasing on a weekly basis. And then let's go back to, I'm going to go back to the main page here. Bilingual coding activities. So I think they're just, yeah. So this links to our Teachers Pay Teachers account. You will need to have an account to access this, but we've done most of these with our, with these lessons. We've done Pizza for Lunch. That's available in both English and Spanish. We haven't done this one. I don't have the capabilities to do an offline activity with you guys because I don't have the materials and I can't get to the materials. So this is one you could do, is make an LED light wand, and essentially what that is you'll learn how to use a straw and you'll be able to make it glow and kind of have a little glowing wand with a straw and a little LED holiday light that you would use to decorate like a tree or something. So those are all available in English and Spanish. What else was on there? Sorry, I exited out before I was ready. So we did the secret code, we've done butterfly travels, we've done the Kano art stuff. This is one, so this is really more of a here's how you get to it activity. Ooh, this is a new one that they added, this algorithm hopscotch. So that's actually would be a really fun one. And I see that the grades are 4th through 5th, but if you have younger students or younger siblings, it'd be really fun for you to work it out and then have them test it. Because what you see, the whole point of understanding algorithms is that you learn how specific you have to be with computers and how direct your code has to be. Because I was doing coding last night and I was telling it that when one variable equals 1, display this other element variable that also equals 1. But I was off in how I was doing that. So my code was doing exactly what I was telling it to do, but it wasn't executing the way I needed it to because I wasn't being as specific as I needed to. And it took me a few minutes to figure it out. So that this little stuff, getting that kind of thinking done now with these fun activities is really, really great. So let's double check. At-home digital resources. Let's see what those are. So these are some other groups in the area that have some resources for you guys for learning STEM and learning it online. But yeah, so, and as you know, if you come up here, Jam, Bits and Bytes Online, all of our past activities are on here, so I'll be uploading this one once I get offline, once I stop recording it. But the newest ones go up here at the top, and then all of our old ones are down here at the bottom. See, I need to update that. I always forget to. Our next one is actually going to be Tuesday, April 7th at 4 p.m. So if you go to this page, you can just click on the register for Q&A session, and it's going to take you to our active page. It is free. You guys do not have to pay for this, and you can sign up for as many as you want, or have your parents sign you up for as many, so you can see all of them are listed here. So later this week, we're going to do a little Java project. It's going to be better if you have some typing skills, but if you're younger and you want to try it out anyways, if you're new to typing, that's fine. As you know, with these videos and the activity sheets, you're able to go at your own pace. So yeah, we'll have all those. We're scheduled through April, and we'll see how things go with the stay-at-home orders and such. But I think that's all I have to tell you guys about. So I hope that you sign up for our Q&A session, and I can't wait to see your projects and help you with anything that you need help with. Good luck with school, and I'll see you guys next time.